people already left. I welcome Julius. Come here. Uh, we start with Julius. Julius from Africa, from Nigeria, uh, cooking for everybody in Villa Maraini has an history, and I think that he can be a witness of the work that is done here. So I ask Julius for a brief
Very brief.
intervention, even if your story is many years story. So you have the floor.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Julius. I was here to study architecture. At the time, 1985-86, the military government took over the government in Nigeria. I had a scholarship. They left the scholarship for me. So I tried to, since I had the permit to stay in Italy, some Nigerians who hasn't the permission, they told me, please, can you get a house for us on your name? I did it. I never knew they were selling drugs. They arrested them, and the police, they asked them, who is the owner of this house? They said, Julius, but he doesn't know what we're doing. They say, you're a Nigerian. I wasn't living with them anywhere. They came to my house. They say, you're a Nigerian. Go to jail and tell the judge what you did. I said, I didn't do anything. I stayed 6 months in jail without going to court. The last 3 months, I was so depressed, and I saw so many people who were laughing, joking, playing football. I said, but how are you so happy when you're restricted in this kind of a place? They said, come on, test this thing. It was a heroin. I tested it, I vomited, but it was a kind of vomition that made me a little bit happy. I did it for 3 months. The day the court took the decision, they say I didn't know anything about what they're doing, that they are very sorry. I came out of the jail. The police, they say, we are very sorry. Just because you're a Nigerian, that's why we arrested you. But I was feeling so bad, so bad, so bad, until I met someone who saw me in the jail. He said, how are you like this? Come to my house, let me tell you something. I went to his house. He gave me a little heroin. I took the heroin. I was okay again. I said, what happened? I didn't have money. They left the Nigerian government didn't give me the scholarship again because I went to jail. From there, I started trafficking drugs. My life changed. At the time, from 1997, they arrested me. And they gave me to the maximum seclusion in the jail. Then I got contact with Villa Marini. They were writing me Episcopal letters. Then when I came here, I decided, or I go in this way or I go in that way. From let's say 1923, the first time I came here, I've been having contacts with Villa Marini, and it's my family. Now I've been a cook from 2009. My life has changed. I walk on the streets. I don't get care of anybody. I get care of people who are poor, who need something because I'm a cook. But I'm not afraid of the police anymore. I don't have money. I don't have anything with me so that if I go to jail, at least I will stay for 2-3 weeks before somebody helps me. That's my life. It's so long. Let's make it short because I have a lot of work to do.
That's all. That's all.
Yeah, let me make it so brief so that.
Yeah. Somebody want to ask anything to Julius? You told everything. Lascia. Yeah. Qui, microphone. Lascia, you have your place.
So I know your story, and it's quite long, and you finish it very short. That's fine. But so can you share with us your barriers and the length, how long it took to get the paper, what help you received from here, if your emotional part allows you, because that's important, how the policy and legal issues develop.
In fact, Foundation. When I got in contact with Villa Marini Foundation, I told them my stories. They knew my stories. For 20 years, I had no contaction with my family in Nigeria. So many operators, they helped me. Villa Marini, they gave me the residence to stay here. They told me, we are the part of your family. With the love and affection they gave to me, that's why I decided to, without Villa Marini, maybe I still would have been an international drug pusher, for sure. So now I feel free, I feel comfortable, I do what I have to do, and my life, without Villa Marini, I wouldn't have been here today, so happy.
If we want to eat, we must get back in the kitchen.
No, spiega pure per quante persone, diciamo, fai da mangiare, anche quando ci sta
Yeah, for example, during the immigration 2016, 2017, we used to cook for 1,500 people daily, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you can imagine it's about 3,000, 4,000 people that we cook for. And even today we are cooking for the poor people in Rome. We do about 300 dishes daily for them. So, I mean, here, everybody comes to eat. The people who are in the street, they come, they ask for food, and we can never say no to them. So many of them are drug users, and when they come, we tell them, we will give you food, but you have to come here and treat yourself. And so many people, they are doing so right now.
Conta pure che hai finito gli studi, che sei andato all'AMO a fare il...
Yeah, so many stories, so many stories. I mean, I went so many parts of the world to tell them my stories and how to rehabilitate themselves. Giancarlo is the guy who was pushing me. He said, do this, do that, do that. I said, yeah, I've gone through these situations. I accepted. The first day I came here, I wanted to go because I wanted to have money. Fabio Patruno told me, take a decision. Where are you going? I said, what kind of work do I have to do? He said, you will do work, you will receive some money. I told him that the money I will receive in a month is the money I spend in a day. He said, well, but when I knew that life is beautiful, that I have around me the people that loves me, that doesn't want me to make more mistakes, I felt so happy. I felt so happy. The affection and the love I received from Villa Moraini, my family at home, they are so happy for it.
Architetto De Rossi.
È molto toccante quello che hai raccontato, molto toccante, molto significativo, molto utile ascoltarti. È utile per noi che siamo qua, ma io credo che questa tua esperienza dovrebbe essere conosciuta di più e meglio proprio nelle scuole. Allora mi domando se è possibile fare una registrazione, fare un breve documento che possa essere portato nei licei durante l'ora di, non lo so se c'è uno spazio nelle ore di religione, di sociologia, di educazione civica, a cui dovrebbe seguire poi un dibattito. Queste esperienze sono preziosissime, non tanto per noi che in fondo siamo interessati per vari motivi a questi problemi, ma soprattutto per coloro che affrontano le difficoltà della vita e che si possono trovare di fronte casualmente a queste vicende che non scelgono ma che subiscono. La parte iniziale del tuo discorso è proprio quella appunto in cui tu volevi studiare architettura. Io sono architetto, conosco l'ambiente, eccetera. Ho figli che studiano architettura E allora mi piacerebbe molto che la tua esperienza potesse essere portata alla loro attenzione. Villa Maraini potrebbe essere questo veicolo, incidendo appunto in un breve film e da portare poi nelle scuole, con il doppio valore della tua esperienza e anche del significato di avere trovato in Villa Maraini il luogo dove è possibile una realizzazione individuale. Complimenti, grazie.
Infatti mi mancavano... posso parlare in italiano? Manco la mia lingua, poi mischio tutto. Mi mancavano diciamo 2 mesi di workshop per avere laurea di umanistica e sistema informativa. Però ho scelto di stare qui perché vedevo le persone che soffrivano molto. Cioè 2 o 3 mesi di workshop alla Sapienza per avere la cosa di umanistica e sistema informativa. Quando vedevo le ragazze che stavano male, ho detto lasciamo perdere. Se qualcuno lo possa aiutare, lo aiuto. E io, tante persone che hanno fatto fino al programma qui, lo devono anche a me. Perché quando gli racconto la mia storia, loro hanno detto perché non possiamo fare come te?
Devo dire che Julius oramai sono tanti anni, è diventato un personaggio che lo conoscono anche per strada. Ci sono alcuni che lo aspettano alla fermata dell'autobus e sanno che lui poi gli distribuisce un po' di assistenza, vestiti, cose. Quindi è veramente fa parte del mito di Villa Maraini. Grazie per la tua testimonianza.
Grazie.
È colpa mia se è stato conciso, perché lui se parte a parlare poi ci racconta tutto e quindi era incompatibile con i nostri tempi. Però insomma rende l'idea. Grazie Julius.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Allora adesso noi dobbiamo decidere come proseguiamo. Voi sapete, vi ho detto il primo giorno che questo non era un convegno pre-cooked e quindi tutto quello che sarà l'esito di questo convegno lo decidiamo qua, lo decidiamo tutti insieme, all together. Quindi io aspetto che qualcuno, probabilmente i rapporteur delle 2 sessioni separate di ieri, prenda l'iniziativa e ci suggerisca the roadmap per arrivare alle conclusioni. Poi alle 11:30 presenteremo alla stampa un lavoro sulle overdosi e anche sulle temperature corporee dei nostri pazienti, perché abbiamo qualcosa di originale da raccontare. Chi chiede la parola? Fabio.
Grazie Massimo. I'd like to share my feeling on these days and some reflections that I got this morning. In the morning I reflect. Driving by car 1 hour, more or less, to reach the villa, because I live on the hills. I like to be brief. In these days, I had the opportunity to see different, practical, concrete ways to advocate for reaching the objectives of the Rome Consensus. I respect this diversity. We represent a different organization, diverse philosophy, and ways of act, all joined by the common objective. We ask for respect for diversity among us, as we all ask for respect for the ones who are using drug even in a problematic way. I recommend to avoid controversial among diverse philosophy and tools not yet written in the Rome Consensus 2.0. I trust on it. Let it as it is now, for a fixed time. This is my proposal. For example, 2-3 years, and postpone the possibility to modify it later on. It's time to build bridge, not to create barriers. Let's work together and hope for the best results. This is my reflection. Thank you.
Very synthetic. But an answer to a question that we put on the table the first day. I think we can agree, and let's go on with the text as it is. I don't think it's time that we change one paragraph or another. A lot of people feel comfortable with this text. And also at international level, nobody made objections because we are in line with the international policy on drugs, but we put emphasis on humanitarian attitude. I think humanity needs humanitarian attitude. In a world every day more violent, and where behind violence there is always the drugs. We consider this a priority. Treatment is therapeutic. Treatment is therapeutic not only for the person, but for the world. We have no power, but we have the power to address, not the solution, but the good road. So we need to enlarge the knowledge of the Rome Consensus. This is our priority. It is good for the people to know that it's possible to fight drugs in a soft way, a humanitarian way, in which the first point is to meet and treat all the drug users. But it's time to listen to what has been done yesterday. So I give the floor to people who want to make us know better what is being decided yesterday. Yeah, Lascia has the floor.
So I will be very, very brief, and also I repeat it several times. So while I completely understand that we are talking about the advocacy mechanism, we are talking about advocacy platform. So we need to make sure that those messages, those high-level discussions are translated into the activity and the programmatic level. Otherwise, we can go on with the messaging. So I don't know, in this, in one of the conclusions of these meetings or one of the recommendations, so how we make sure that particularly the programmatic ground level members of the Rome Consensus and others can implement those advocacy messages into everyday activities. I don't know if it makes sense.
This is this is a question, and all of you are asked to microphone. This is a question for everybody. There is no mechanism already written to answer this question. This is a question for all of you. So we would like to have your answer, and first of all, Joanna from ISUP.
Thank you.
And Jamie then.
I will just want to point out that in my opinion, I don't think it has to be action or advocacy. I think that the action is an excellent tool for the advocacy because it gives people the example, the practical steps they can take with the Rome Consensus in their country. So I actually think if there are activity approaches, it's an excellent advocacy tool for people to see then how they can implement it in their country.
Thank you. Jamie.
Thank you, Massimo. Yeah, building on what everyone else has said, I think yesterday we talked about the idea of creating a toolkit or a survey or a checklist, something that takes the Rome Consensus and turns it, explains what that really looks like. What does a country have to do if they're going to meet our expectations in the consensus? And I think that I agree with what you and Fabio were saying, that we don't need to change the text of the consensus, because if you do this now, you have to go back to all the 700 signatories and ask them to re-sign, which is, I think, unnecessary. But if you were to produce another a checklist or a survey or something that the national societies can use in their country or the other signatories can use in their country, that also gives you an opportunity to update the language or to clarify exactly what we mean. You know, because some of the language in that Rome Consensus, people might look at that and think, well, what do they really mean by that? What do they really mean by alternatives to incarceration? What do they really mean by evidence-based prevention and things like that? So I think if we create a checklist, that's our opportunity to let people know what does this look like in real life. And then we get to see which countries are closest to the Rome Consensus and which countries are furthest away.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. One of the things I think is important, both sessions yesterday have a one common point: how the national societies and the NGOs who are signatories can be together and start to work together. So I think this is one of the first steps also with the verification of all our networks. So for example, some of the organizations who are coming this week talk to me, and they want also to know with what is the via of communication with the national societies. So I think we need to have some channel to have directly contact between the organizations and also with the Red Cross. And I think you have the answer, Lasha.
Yeah, I do have the answer. Definitely this contact needs to be made. Maybe in the beginning, not everywhere will be possible. So, and also it can be done step by step. So if we have the mapping of the organizations, I mean, where your affiliates are working, in how many countries, for instance, so then we make these connections, or and definitely other partners also. So I don't know, so Romina, I think, and you did the mapping, and geographic distribution we already have. So maybe we just need to go through it and do already certain connections. Because if we don't facilitate this, so that will be very difficult for the member partners and organizations to do it. It needs certain facilitation, I think. So maybe we can introduce kind of regional calls regional, maybe once a quarter or once in 6 months, I don't know. So just really to have the introduction between the regional colleagues. So maybe not everyone, but I think the interested and the most active ones. So.
Romina.
Grazie Massimo, grazie Lascia. So something that came out from yesterday's session was so quite few organizations that are here. This summit asked us two things. One, what you, Martin and Lascia just said. So how our organization can get in touch and work closely with the Red Crescent or Red Cross National Society in our country to promote humanitarian drug policy. And the second thing that we discussed, one of the things we discussed yesterday was about the role of ambassadors. So we, as we discussed during our internal meeting, it seems like a good plan to have two different levels of ambassadors with two different levels of engagement. So regional ambassadors and then national ambassadors. And it was great yesterday because after the session I had at least 7 people from 7 different countries who came talk to me and Martin saying we would love to become Rome Consensus ambassadors in our region or in our country. And I think this is a great achievement. And something else that came out during yesterday's session, so you know, ISUP as really, really wide network. They have a platform with online training, and we discussed with Joanna and Jack the opportunity to offer a training about humanitarian drug policy on ISUP platform and a training on deflection. So, I mean, this means that the message can go out there and, you know, thank you, Joanna, for, you know, giving us this opportunity. So I think this was another important achievement.
Thank you. So I have one point. So it's whatever way ambassador science, very, very nice and high level. So so what I think it should be explained what we mean. Is this just promoter? This is just representative? Is this really the celebrity? Are we talking about Hollywood actor or football player? Because normally when the terminology ambassador is used, that's how it is. Yeah, and also I think it's totally connected with what Jamie said, basically, to provide our members with certain definitions of the terminology. Oh, it's me? My God. Sorry, certain definitions for the terminology, and then going back to the deflection yesterday. So, I mean, I know that people ask many questions here, but also when I had discussion outside, so they left a bit unclear what does it mean. So we need to try to translate all this, our terminology into the community languages, if I may say, to start with. Whether it's should be part of the training or it should be, you know, coming up with some kind of vocabulary related to the policy issues, or just very practical and easy.
Do you?
Serbia asks.
Yeah, just kind of more principal comment regarding like advocacy and Red Cross activities on the ground and any kind of activities on the ground. Oh, can you hear me? Oh. I think the advocacy is super important, not necessarily linked to the like local Red Cross branch advocacy in X country. It's important really to change the discourse on drug use and drug addiction, and that will ultimately trickle down ultimately will change the policy and trickle down to the more meaningful activities, or enable more meaningful activities on the ground. But we should not obsessing on if the kind of high level advocacy activities necessarily need to be translated immediately to the activities on the ground. So that's the one thing. And the other thing, just to kind of echo what we discussed yesterday, is really kind of to kind of even broader the coalition on in Roma consensus on different kind of interest groups. So we discussed teachers yesterday, and other interest groups. Natasha and I coming from the kind of aging community, so to say, and our particular interest in this regarding drug policy is, for example, access to palliative care medications, and not necessarily only painkillers, but now you have breakthroughs regarding usage of psychedelics in palliative treatments, etc. So we should think strategically on how to involve other, so to say, kind of communities who are not necessarily directly linked to the drug policy, but yet can be interesting in moving the access to, like in this case, medications, but access to more meaningful drug policy moving forward. I mean, ultimately, I agree with the idea that ultimately you need to decriminalize everything and regulate more meaningfully, but that is not like around the corner, I guess. But moving forward to that goal, I think we should really first broaden the coalition and really kind of embrace the idea that advocacy do not necessarily it's not necessarily translatable to the local activities tomorrow. It'll be enable more meaningful activities, I don't know, like a year from now or 10 years from now. We should really kind of embrace this kind of incremental approach, partly broader coalition, and really push forward really kind of more meaningful discourse around drug policies.
Io vorrei sottolineare che il termine ambasciatore è un termine molto impegnativo. We all have one idea concrete what is an ambassador. I want to tell you a history. Yesterday, OJ, you told us that from your country, in Tanzania, somebody was in link with this meeting and say, I want to be an ambassador. It is not neutral, this word. So we must study in deep a mechanism. So perhaps we can delegate somebody to study this issue. What does it mean, ambassador? In the mind of all of us, ambassador means some very specific, concrete. Non è come dire io vendo carciofi. Yeah. Jamie, you have the floor.
I mean, I would say in English, ambassador, it doesn't remind me of artichokes. It's more, more Ferrero Rocher and big palaces, and it's a very grand term. In the campaigns that I've been involved in, this kind of role, we've called it champions. You champion the campaign rather than ambassador and be an ambassador for it. But anyway, it means different things to different people. I think you're right. More importantly for me, I see the benefit of having ambassadors, but it's also a risk because you have to choose the right person. You're putting a lot of faith and a lot of importance on one individual.
And you have to manage. And you have to manage,
of course, because in a lot of these countries, in most countries really, there is already a lot of work being done by civil society around harm reduction, drug policy reform, prevention, palliative care, all of this work. These aren't new topics. Yeah? We're not introducing new ideas. Okay? Even deflection, many countries already have diversion programs. They might call it something else, but so these aren't new ideas that we're bringing. So it's really important that whoever is the ambassador or the champion is someone who is already connected to all of that work that's being done. Because if someone comes in and tries to start it all again, or duplicate it, or maybe even compete with what is already happening in that country, then we're not going to do any good. We're going to do more harm. So I think it's the selection of the individuals. I think you mentioned we need a mechanism. There needs to be some guidance, you know? It's not just someone puts their hand up and we say, yes, yeah, you're now the ambassador for Kenya, you're now the ambassador for Beirut. You know, yeah, we have to be very careful who we choose because they have to be the right person because they are going to be very, very important for us.
Yeah, Marat wants to talk first. And then
Yes, thank you so much, dear colleagues and partners. Yes, in my understanding, it's also youth ambassadors, it's a little bit different, and I agree that when we talk about ambassadors, we should talk about some kind of level of superstars, celebrities, and people very well known among this community. I mean, even among the country, on country level. So, and maybe even champion is also a little bit ambitious, meaning that that we should be taking this leading position every time. In my understanding, maybe we should use terminology like a mediator, to be some kind of, to play the role, to coordinate, communicate, and maybe joining to the national mechanisms already existing in the country. And so in my group, when we discussed this partnership and substance abuse, Red Cross, Red Crescent, we got an idea, first of all, that we have to conduct some kind of mapping of stakeholders, which is already in the country, and again, not to increase the high competition already existing in the countries. For example, in Kyrgyzstan, in the country where I'm from, that we have already many stakeholders, many actors working in the field, and even now they have very high competition among them, because it's a struggle for funds, for funding, and actually we wouldn't like to increase this competition. We would like to play a coordination or maybe mediation role, and to be softly, you know, engaged into the existing national plan and you know, stakeholders already working in. So in our country, we are also hosting, in addition to the hosting of ERNA Secretariat, we are also hosting Secretariat of CCM, Country Coordination Mechanism, mostly working for the Global Fund money and USAID money as well, meaning that all main, you know, funding supported from this donor organization, let's say like this one, they are discussed on this very high level platform in the country, and we are having the success to this platform. We can walk through this platform, and again, using our fundamental principles and humanitarian diplomacy, not to increase competition and not to increase these disputes among different stakeholders, but just to mediate and maybe to make this environment more friendly, if is it possible to do from our side.
Thanks, Massimo. David Bruna from the Nomad Institute, and also from Chile. That is why I would like to say something. I think, first of all, we shouldn't lose our goal. I think the questions about ambassador, representative, mediators, we can find the best term, is because we want to achieve something that yesterday was really clear, and there was a big consensus that to promote and to outreach places, countries, organizations that we didn't have. I think the problem sometimes that we have some controversial about some terms is because we feel, especially I come from the Global South, that there are some terms, some terminology that has been imposed by other countries, especially, for example, ambassadors is something that many brands are using, and sometimes we don't know that we are not promoted a product. Anything. What we want is like more people can take part of this and also be active. And I think in that sense, first of all of us that we are here, that first of all, also that our organizations and our institutions have been really generous to decide that some of them come here, because all of us, we know that this is an extra work, an extra time that we're giving up in our common work, in our organizations, to take part of this initiative. And in the same sense, that we are here, we are willing to continue promoting this. And I think that is also important. So if we're going to decide to have or not ambassadors or representatives, I think that is that we shouldn't lose. And also that considering the specific missions of our organizations, even though most of the people here are part of the Red Cross network, also where the other organizations, we have certain characteristics, and maybe it could be a specific role of ambassadors more related to the Red Cross and other one related to the other organizations that are taking part here. But I think we shouldn't lose the goal that we want. We want to do that because we want to increase, to bring more people to participate, and also to promote more.
Julia from Ukraine.
Thank you. I have some idea about this meaning, what we mean in ambassador. I think we should also thinking about quality and quantity. Of course, we can have a lot of members, participants. It's good, as say yesterday Massima, because it's power. I agree with it. But if we say about ambassador, it should be a specific role, and this person should be also according specific criteria. Because if it's not good ambassador like this, that's why we maybe will have in future negative effects. And it's also about our image, about our role in the world, about our impact, and it's very important things. For example, yesterday we said about social media. We need to use social media. Okay. But if, for example, this ambassador is not good speaker and not good promote the role of Red Cross, and sorry, it will be negative effects and it share it very fast because it's information sphere, it's an information field and it's social media. That's why I think so very important to look in who is it and what are the maybe personality characteristics, and it's very important. It's the first thing which we notice. The second thing which we notice, I said yesterday about task that we needed to have like two plan but one strategy. Strategy is a whole, yes, and this strategy can take and include two active plan for the region level and active plan for the national level, and we check what are the results and what are the achievement according to region level and according to the national level. That's why at whole then we maybe make a report or something conclusion. We can give collective data from the statistic and give collective data from the quality, yes, about regional and national level. Because I said also that national level, it's more longer procedure, it's more time needed to implementation something. Regional level, it's more active, more activities, and that's why we include it together, and that's why we have a roadmap about achievement, about results, and about information. Also very important information, not only people who in this professional sphere, informated a lot of people, maybe who connected, like stakeholders, as you said, because sometimes stakeholders maybe want to something to do together with us, but don't know how, don't know information. That's why this deficit, that's why not enough information, and they couldn't connect it with us. That's why very important preparing, very clarify, and it will be like typical information. We, for example, do it one activities. After that, we regard it and according and one like list, yes, information list, and send everywhere the same information. That's why we achievement the one task. All information about these activities should be clarified to everybody, not to the specific people, to the specific professional sphere. It's also very important because, of course, we speak together 3 days and we know a lot of information, a lot of activities, no, and understand it very well. But if one of the stakeholders come to us today, sit here and not understand about it. It's like say that what we mean in Red Cross, humanitarian system and others approach. Yeah, that's why we needed very clarify, very simple, give information and also agreed this information together and send this message everywhere to stakeholders. It's like this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Helary, Chief of MENARA.
Thank you. First of all, I believe that this fora is one of the best, if it's not the best, because it gathered people from, if I can use this term, from the left side to the right side, under the humanitarian issue. My concern is that what I mentioned yesterday, I don't think that our aim is the declaration. Our aim is to see what is in the declaration translated into action. Our aim is the humanitarian drug policy, no? So that's why first, yes, we need more allies, but we need more allies not only from people who are like us, as if we are preaching believers. We need to go outreach outside. For that reason, I think first, as Jamie said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I believe that we need to start by assessing each one of us at his, her level, country or region, what is already existing, and build on this. I think that I believe that we have to build alliances at the national and regional levels. Second or third, I don't remember, we need to translate the Rome Consensus to different languages. For me, for example, if I want to go to North African countries, it will be very difficult for some of them to understand English. We need to have it in Arabic, in French, in different other languages, I think, in order to respect people in their own culture. And also, I think if you want to follow the model of having, you called it ambassadors or focal points or whatever, we need to always remember that we are but humble servers of the humanity. That's why a clear terms of reference for whatever you want to call the representatives, a clear terms of reference with clear deliverables, and it's the Secretariat who has to choose the whatever, as again, ambassador if you want, and not them to apply. It's better because you know with whom to collaborate and how to be accountable. They have to be accountable. From my side, yesterday we were, you decided to have Asia and the Middle East. We were Augusto and me. And when we were discussing, we found that there is not lots of similarity, neither in the culture nor in the policy at the level. So we decided that I am the Middle East and he is the Asia. And from my side, I can tell you that I have a small plan that I can share it with you. I discuss it with Romina and Martin later on maybe about what to do from now until the end of the year. So thank you.
Thank you. Rudy, yeah, from Ireland.
Hi. Thanks so much. So as people have been speaking, I think a lot of what I was going to say has already maybe been said, but maybe just to emphasize a bit. So I think that, first of all, what has already been said is that this idea of a humanitarian drug policy, it's not new. It's fantastic, and what is new is bringing together the Red Cross, Red Crescent, and civil society together, and prevention, treatment, drug policy reform, harm reduction, all under the one document, and I think that's the real power of the document. But it is really important to remember that there is, governments have heard of this before. It's not going to be new to them, and it's not new to civil society in the countries who have been working on this for decades. So it's important that we build on, and this has already been said, but it's important we build on the movements that are already there and use this to really bring together the different people working in regards to drugs. So I think that's the most important thing, is that it's not new, which I've heard quite a few times over the past few days. And I think if we say that, it's going to feel maybe like it's imposing on people who have been doing this for so long, fighting for their governments to hear them, pushing and pushing and pushing, but not being recognized. And I think if we come out with this "it's a new thing" approach, then that will kind of almost be a little bit insulting to the people who've been doing it for so long. But the power of this is to bring people together from harm reduction, drug policy reform, those who've been doing this already, treatment, prevention, all under the one document. So when it comes to, I think, this idea of ambassadors, I see it more as connectors. I think it's important to connect both civil society, who've been doing this for a long, long time in their countries, and the Red Cross and prevention and treatment through this document, and to really explain to people why it's important to them. So bringing together, talking to those working in prevention and treatment who maybe don't know about this yet, explaining why this is an important document to them, but also for harm reductionists and drug policy reformers, those that I spend most of my time talking to explain why this document is also important to them, because it is a progressive document, but it's also stuff that we've been saying for quite a long time. So maybe people will feel like they can't connect to it because it's not something exciting, new that's happening. But it's important we're able to get these people also on board to see it as something as very important for bringing together the movement in a way it hasn't been brought together before. I think that might be everything. Yeah, and making the message adaptable. So I had said that yesterday, and a few people have said it, to make sure that people understand who aren't involved in drugs at all, why this issue is important to them, why they should also fight for it. So making the messaging behind it really adaptable to all these different groups and showing why they should care. And again, I want to also stand with Jamie in what he was saying about the checklist idea. I think that this is a really good idea. People can look at their country and say, we've done this, 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 and this, and we're not doing this and this. I think that's really an important way to utilize this in like a toolkit kind of manner. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Serbia? Huh?
So I would like to say that for me, I see something new here, so I don't disagree that this is not something new. Because on all the meetings at UN or the civil society forum and so on, there was always big high-level words, big policy words. But this is first time that I'm in a community of NGOs and civil society, which is openly declaring this diversion approach. This is for me kind of win-win situation for both for community, for individual who is using drugs in chaotic way. Let's say like that. So yeah, for me this is something completely new. I've never been in a group of people which are discussing this kind of approach and only this kind of approach. Yeah. That's what I want to say.
Thank you very much.
Grazie Massimo. Allora, Angela Furlan, Italian, evidentemente parlerò in italiano. Allora, intanto ringrazio davvero Massimo per questi 3 giorni perché ritengo che sia stata utilissima per tutti quanti noi. Allora, vorrei condividere insieme a voi una serie di ragionamenti che ho fatto in questi giorni. A mio avviso al di là di ragionare sul significato che ciascuno di noi dà alla parola ambasciatore, alla parola mediatore, dovremmo proprio partire da quella che è la priorità che ci siamo dati, e ovvero sia come ampliare la conoscenza del Rom Consensus. Ora, all'interno di questa platea siamo tanti e siamo diversi evidentemente. Veniamo da paesi diversi, con processi di democratizzazione differenti, con sistemi normativi differenti, con lingue differenti, e questo a mio avviso deve essere un plus, un valore aggiunto per tutti noi e non un demerito. Questo cosa significa? Significa che non andrei a ragionare per cercare un format, perché come ha detto poc'anzi qualcuno che mi ha preceduto e che ho apprezzato, questo non è un prodotto, non è una pubblicità, ma è più che altro un metodo. Cioè quello che a mio avviso deve passare dal Rom Consensus è un metodo per affrontare un problema abnorme che abbiamo tutti nel mondo, ovviamente con le diversità che ci caratterizzano. Detto questo, quello che diciamo, vedo un doppio livello di lavoro, uno più interno e uno più esterno. Il lavoro interno che secondo me ogni società nazionale, ogni realtà si dovrebbe dare, riguarda sicuramente l'attività di formazione, legata strettamente all'attività di informazione e di lobbying. Cioè ognuno internamente dovrebbe fare pressione su quelle che sono le proprie istituzioni locali, e un'attività invece esterna che a mio avviso dovrebbe riguardare sicuramente l'informazione prima ancora che la formazione. Esternamente deve uscire il Rom Consensus, cosa che ancora a mio avviso non è avvenuta, e quindi tutto il lavoro di advocacy di cui abbiamo parlato fino ad ora. Ora, ancora due parole e vi lascio. Per esempio il ragionamento che si faceva ieri nella sessione di lavoro alla quale ho partecipato, c'era il dottor De Rossi che proponeva una soluzione a mio avviso estremamente interessante e che sicuramente rientra in una forma di diversion, anche se magari non è la stessa diversion che può essere applicata in Germania piuttosto che in Francia piuttosto che in America, e riguardava la creazione di un ambiente di come dire, compartimentazione, una casetta sulla falsariga della casetta dell'affettività. Questo è un ragionamento che probabilmente gli italiani possono comprendere meglio, perché conosciamo la nostra realtà. Magari in un paese differente questa modalità di portare avanti una forma di diversion non sarebbe ugualmente efficace. Ecco, e qui chiudo il mio ragionamento. Quello che io voglio dire è proprio l'efficacia. Ognuno di noi sta ad ognuno di noi capire ed individuare, e qua viene fuori la cosa difficile dell'ambizioso compito che ci stiamo dando, quale possa essere il metodo, torno a ribadire la parola perché le parole sono importanti, il metodo da adottare affinché il Rom Consensus possa avere maggior conoscenza e quindi diffusione sulla base delle realtà nazionali singole, ovviamente, a cui apparteniamo. Grazie molto per la disponibilità.
Grazie. Sì, architetto De Rossi.
Sì, mi riallaccio e la ringrazio l'avvocato Furlan perché ha rilanciato la problematica che è uscita ieri quando guidava Romina Marchionne, che è appunto quella, mi permetto di spendere due parole soltanto a spiegare un pochino meglio quale era l'idea sulla quale ci eravamo trovati d'accordo. Bene, se il discorso che portiamo avanti è quello della salute, è quello della protezione della persona che usa droghe e che si trova evidentemente in determinati momenti della propria vita in condizioni di grande difficoltà, è quella di allontanarla dal pericolo più grosso, che è quello del carcere, l'esperienza del carcere, che è terrificante perché va a sovrapporre una sofferenza ad un'altra sofferenza. Allora bisogna trovare E qui chiaramente nasce il discorso appunto dell'ambiente che ci condiziona moltissimo, condiziona la mente, condiziona il cervello e condiziona evidentemente le modalità di esistenza all'interno di una problematica durissima. Allora bisogna trovare un ambiente che sia protettivo, che sia diciamo come camera di compensazione, dove possa non essere consentita l'esperienza carceraria, perché come diceva ieri, non mi ricordo chi, stare 3 giorni in attesa di un colloquio con un eventuale magistrato che deciderà quando, come, eccetera, eccetera, già in quei 3 giorni si subisce un'esperienza terrificante. Allora, l'ospedale no. All'interno dell'ambulanza no, e evidentemente bisogna trovare un luogo, un ambiente. Inventiamo un ambiente che sia naturalmente protetto, che sia garantito nei diritti e che quindi possa essere appunto nel momento in cui come camera di compensazione possa consentire un aiuto alla persona che soffre. Ecco, tutto qua. Ora, noi dobbiamo andare, in Italia per esempio abbiamo degli interlocutori con i quali si può evidentemente già fin da subito interloquire, andare a parlare col Ministero della Giustizia, con il DAP che si è detto essere poi comunque disponibile, con il Ministero della Salute, con il Ministero dell'Interno, tutti sono responsabili su questa problematica se affrontata nei termini dei diritti umani e nei termini appunto di chi subisce queste problematiche. Grazie.
Grazie. OJ.
Cesar. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm OJ. I'm coming from Rwanda, but I'm living and working in Villa Maraini. I'm very proud to be part of the family of Villa Maraini. First of all, I would like to say I feel like I'm lucky to be who I am. I'm lucky to have God that gave me courage to become or to overcome those difficulties that sometimes I feel like, why don't he? Okay, you know, as everybody knows here, I'm an ex-addict, ex-drug dealer, ex-drug dealer and ex-convict as well. And for me to overcome all this is, I feel like I'm grateful to God, grateful to the people that have supported me in this journey. I'm also lucky to be in Villa Maraini and especially to be down walking close to Massimo Bara. For me, as an African, we always refer things to the nature. So Massimo Bara, to me, when I look at him, I feel like I'm looking at a big fruit tree that every now and then the mango fall down and I grab it and eat. So the wisdom that comes from this man, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if everybody getting. Okay. What I'm saying is that I'm happy to be part of this event. Is something that I really enjoy most, and I cannot even explain, and I think words cannot explain exactly what this event means to me. Me that I'm ex-everything. An Italian told me, non ti sei fatto mancare nulla. In senso, sei nero, straniero, delinquente, tossicodipendente, you know, so I'm so grateful to be here. What I wanted, I'm going to the point. Yesterday I was trying to talk with Massimo. What I meant, it was, I think, yes, someone have already explained it, because when we use the term ambassador, I think it's too heavy and strong, even for me, because if you ask me to be ambassador, first of all, it comes political things, I don't know, I don't want to have anything to do with the political or any of these things. But I think Murad, if I'm not making a mistake, he explained a little bit what I meant to say yesterday. I meant to say mediator. You know, what I saw, I'm very happy that to see people from many countries here. But I see that there is many countries which are missing in this table. And I would like in the future to see that this philosophy and this is going in every corner in this world. What I say now, for example, I was born in Rwanda and grew up in Tanzania, which is two countries I belong, but Italy is a home to me now. And I didn't see anyone from Tanzania participating in this event. I didn't saw anyone from Rwanda participating in this event. And I myself tried to connect 3 people that are following this event now online from Tanzania. So what I wanted to say yesterday that I'm going to Tanzania after a few days. I didn't want to be ambassador. I wanted to be mediator so that I can go there. I will meet people who are working in these sectors, trying to convince them and talk to them about Roma consensus and humanitarian drug policy. This is what I wanted. I was asking. I think I spoke to Fabio as well yesterday. I think he understood me better. You know, this is my. And the last thing I want to ask, or my opinion, or my request in this meeting is that when we read the Bible or Quran, they say God sent prophet to the place where there is sins. So I wish my request to all of you, I wish the next meeting to be held where people doesn't practice, where people doesn't know about humanitarian drug policy, where drug addict is not respected. The law doesn't respect drug addict. I came from third world, I came from Africa, and I know what it is to be a drug addict in Tanzania. Drug addicts in Tanzania, they're all in prison. They push it outside because drug addicts can easily pay corrupt police. The drug pusher can easily pay corrupt police so that he can remain outside. But a drug addict doesn't have this money. Drug pusher can pay judge or have a lawyer that will defend him from going to prison. But a drug addict will always remain in prison. So I wish on the future, you people should think about taking this meeting to the place where there is really, this is needed everywhere. And I hope and I think altogether, I'm really happy to be here, and I think I would like to be for the rest of my life in this table. And yeah.
Okay, thank you, OJ. Thank you. Brazil.
Hi, I would like to raise some points that I think that the Rome Consensus is another tool for advocacy. We have so many tools, and Rome Consensus is another one which can bring us some a fresh approach of this to in order to with other documents and decisions that I would like to emphasize that we have a very recent decision on the Council of Human Rights, which is very important for us as well, if we're talking about humanitarian drug policy. And I think this statement we are about to debate would be another advocacy tool that we can bring to our countries and say, oh, you know, there's a Rome Consensus that was signed for 700 people and institutions, and we had a gathering in Rome last week. So is to strengthen this, the power of this advocacy tool. I think, from my perspective, as a South American person, I would like to emphasize the the need for more people of the Global South in this table as well. I would like to agree with what Wojciech has just said. I think there are some people missing in this table, and I think that in other meetings and events like this, we have to expand our bases in order to have more power to talk to other people. And as soon as far as my work is concerned, as a part of Brazilian drug policy platform, as soon as I go back to Brazil, and I would like to ask some help from Lasha, I would like to contact the Red Cross in Brazil as well, to see what we can do together about drug policy. So, because our network is formed by 50 organizations that are working in Brazil from the health perspective, from the criminal justice perspective, from the harm reduction perspective, and from cannabis regulation perspective. And I think we can work together with the Red Cross, offering this kind of knowledge and experience we have, as Ruby said, from many, many years. So I think that's our work. I mean, to contact Red Crosses in our countries, to contact some other organizations which are not linked directly to the drug policy reform or drug policy issue, like education, like cultural association or institutions like that, so which are not directly connected to this, but has a very crucial role on this. If we are meaning to expand our work beyond the health sector, because drug policy is not just related to health, it's related to many, many other things like human rights, for example. So I think that this is it. My agenda is very full. When I go back to Brazil, I would like to share it with you, because I think we will have similar challenges when we go back to our countries. And if we can put together some things that Jamie yesterday suggested, like a checklist, or simplify the Rome Consensus to present to these people who are not familiar with drug policy issues or terms and all that, I think we would succeed if we do that in a simple way, for example. That would be my comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. It's very important your presence here. Huh? We wait. You push humanitarian drug policy in your continent. Michel.
Thank you, Massimo. And thanks to all of you. You heard me talk about alternatives to incarceration yesterday, and I talked more about the court because I know it well, because that was my life for a while. But I'm also a very strong part of PTAC, and I co-chair our international deflection and pre-arrest diversion strategy area. So I'm talking now wearing my PTAC hat, which is that earliest form of an alternative. And so on behalf of PTAC, Massimo, I want to thank you for allowing PTAC to be a partner for Rome Consensus and helping to develop humanitarian drug policy and to implement it, to actually bring it into action, which is something that I heard in a lot of these comments. And for bringing us here to Villa Marini, where we could have a chance to learn from each other about what humanitarian drug policy means and how it looks. We were able to experience it, both the practices and the hearts of everybody here and everyone who benefits. And in bringing us together to commit to bringing humanitarian drug policy to life. So thank you, and thank everyone for coming. So that's my first part. So thank you, Massimo. And so I do want to switch to deflection, and I understand that Yesterday's presentations were a bit more conversational, and so we do have slides and images to help bring deflection to life, and so we will work on continuing to explain what deflection is. But very simply, deflection is a way of keeping people who use drugs in their communities, with their families, and giving access to the treatment and the care and the services that they need without any contact with a jail or a judge or a prison. So I'm going to leave you with that very simple image. And I think when you think of deflection that way, that is humanitarian drug policy. So if you weren't here last night, you missed an exciting announcement, so I'm going to make it again today, that PTAC is an organization that represents a field of deflection. It stands for Police, Treatment, and Community, and it's a great way of bringing those systems together. So we know PTAC started in the United States, and you heard that from Jack. We know that it expanded to the UK, and you met Jason, and he launched the PTAC UK chapter in late 2022. And so last night, we were really excited to welcome PTAC Italy. And the way we were able to make that happen is, number one, we see here at Villa Marini all the critical elements needed for effective deflection. And we were welcomed here, and I know there were conversations with Massimo, and there was an agreement that PTAC Italy will be housed right here in Rome at the Villa Marini, and on top of that, we will be able to establish a European Center of Excellence for deflection to help train and explain and develop deflection in this part of the world. So we are excited to welcome PTAC Italy to the PTAC and Deflection family, and thank you for agreeing to do that for us. We are very excited about the partnership.
Thank you, Michelle. We are honored and ready. Of course, in the next days, we can study this project, but the first reaction is absolutely in favor. We must enlarge the good news of deflection that is revolutionary in line with all our history. So thank you very much for the trust. And now I give the floor to Mauro.
Thank you, Massimo. Well, actually, we were trying to put on one-page paper. Martin is the first mover of this. More or less, some generic words that can represent a sort of soft commitment, declaration that include all the inputs that we collected here in these days. But before to go to read it, because of course we will try to make a minute with all the precise inputs that we collected here, and maybe we can work together on this. I like very much this kind of session where we can nurture of contents, of ideas, of input, our future engagement and the platform. Of course, for many of us, it was very simple, the idea of putting together people around the table. After that, we already discussed about the statement that we have today of the Rome Consensus. We were already agreeing on these words 4 years ago. We needed to make sure that in these 3 days, you also are in full agreement of what has been said and been written in this declaration. From my point of view, we can also consider this like a humanitarian drug practice more than policy. Because we put in practice every day from our perspective, from our organization, from our daily life, some humanitarian way to rethink the way to approach and address the drug issues in our communities. Because policy is ambitious. I don't know if we are able to really influence our policymakers. Somehow yesterday we can say that it was a good start for Italy to push a very influential policymaker, who's our Minister of Interior, to at least let him know that there's some practice, and for example, deflection can be considered a practice more than a policy. And we, with harm reduction in Tor Bella Monaca, this is a practice. There's no policy, legal framework that allow us to be there. And it's 30 years we are there, saving lives and changing minds of people are living in that area. So, of course, the ambition is to change policy, but we need to, I think that humanitarian drug policy, as Ruby was telling us, maybe it's not a new concept. At least we can say that it's more than 40 years we are talking about humanitarian drug policy, because we are putting in practice every day. And in that age, in that moment, in that period of time, it was impossible to say some words. Today are very common, also in the big fora, in the discussions at all levels. I don't really mind about the name of the people that will represent in the field the Rome Consensus, ambassador, fans, I don't know, evangelists, supporters. I don't really mind about the word. We can find this word, because the core of this table here is that we are in a democracy. We can find a better solution, especially because we have different languages. But what I really need to know from this session is what we need to do to make sure that the Rome Consensus practices can be represented and implemented in all the regions. Because from my point of view, I've been participating to so many conferences all around the world. And trust me, these contents, these practices are still not on the ground. It's rare to hear also some organization that are doing just advocacy, or some clinics that are just doing assistance and health assistance. They don't really practice what we say here. They go in conferences, they say nice words, but when they go back home, the reality is totally different. So we need to make sure, of course, that people are talking on behalf of Rome Consensus are in line with what we say. Maybe they can, we can have a sort of ethic document that need to be signed by these people. But what I really mean that already around this table there are all ambassadors of Rome Consensus. We didn't push you to be here. It was your organization priority to make sure that you can be here and discuss with us. And I'm sure that we already were ambassador in these years. We were a small group. We had a working plan. We had some goals to reach. And it was just 20 of us 4 years ago. Now we are a big group of people. I'm sure that someone will get lost in their daily job, in their daily life. Someone will stay. It's normal. We know this. But what really means here is that we can restart with a growing number of people with the same values and principles. And yes, our colleague from Ireland was right. The real added value here is that we can combine people from Red Cross, Red Crescent Society with civil society organization, drug policy organization, and I really want to make an appeal here that you should use our volunteers on at national level, on local level, to teach them how to deal with drug problems. This is the added values, because if we want to change our communities, if we want to change our leaders, local leaders' mindset, we need people are every day in the communities, and those people are the volunteers. I know that most of the organization here work on more like on advocacy, and we are everywhere in international conferences, and we do training courses, but let's start from here. Like, I think that next steps, we are representing here mostly 3 regions: Americas, Africa, and Europe. Ellie was right. Unfortunately, on Asia...
Middle East.
On Asia, no, Ellie was right, because on Asia and Middle East we have a few representatives here. It's here in this place, we have few representatives compared to the others. So we need to scale up in this region. So it's an objective. We need to scale up. And maybe we should start from these kind of meetings that can be organized on the field. Because it was important to share our environment, a therapeutical environment of Villa Marini could be a boost for all of us to approach together in the same way. Next time should be in the field where people really needs to know that there is an alternative of what they are looking every day in the street, which is avoidance, which is harassment, which is punishment, and so on. So this was my thoughts. I don't know if there's some other thoughts that needs to be shared, otherwise we can